And action!
For me, what got me was this relationship. When I first read the script, it was all about a very complicated relationship between two people and very little spoken. And I love that opportunity as a performer. The opportunity to communicate with someone on another level outside of the verbal communication. And to me, it felt like a Western, you know, the opportunity to kind of sit in a space, occasionally ride your horse, but generally it's about the relationship, the unspoken relationship between two human beings.
It's really a story about an interpreter who doesn't get on with his American sergeant, so to speak. And the unit that belongs to the sergeant and who the interpreter belongs to, they get wiped out. So the only person that's left is the interpreter and the sergeant. And then starts a 120-mile journey, or 120 clicks, back from where they got taken out to all the way back to their base camp. And during that journey of 120 clicks, they meet all sorts of trials and tribulations, but the sergeant is basically semi-conscious for the whole thing as he took a beating onto the head. So it's really a story about what one man is prepared to do in order to take in this chap back to his base.
Inspiration for writing the project came from a documentary we watched a while ago, and it was all to do with interpreters from Afghanistan and their struggle to sort of get into America. And it led Guy to be inspired by this idea of, is there a story to be told around this? But rather than just make it straightforward, like one-sided story, we try to add this sort of like two halves to it, where someone goes above and beyond to save somebody and the debt that's incurred and trying to repay that back.
You know, it's more of it's a relationship out of necessity, really, more than a friendship or anything else. So you have these two guys where, you know, John is kind of stuck with Ahmed, like, I need you, you are my translator in this country. But do I trust you? Probably not. It was very interesting to play with that dynamic. Instead of doing this traditional, you know, I like you, you like me, we're best buddies, I'm gonna save your life, then you save my life. This is much more interesting, I think, that you have to find a way to work together. And there's always this element of mistrust or distrust in each other. At the end of the day, you are the man you are. And hopefully the film will reveal who these guys are and why they end up making the choices that they do.
I think what was very important to Guy at the beginning of this process was that it be a process of discovery. That there was the essential structure of the film, the idea of two people, in my opinion, doing the right thing. It's a very simple story. A story about two human beings deciding, or actually in some ways, being forced to do the right thing. That there is no other choice but that, in the end, to resolve the agita and struggle inside oneself. So Guy was very simple with it, which is what I love about working with him. It's all about structure. And then day to day, it evolves into discovering minutia. What you figured out the day before is then added to the next day, and so on and so forth. So when I first met with him, he said, this is what I want to do. I want to have a real creative time, but I want it to be enjoyable. And I believe creativity comes out of enjoyment and out of joy, as opposed to tension and intensity in that way. Now, there's a space for that in front of the camera, but the process should be a place, the movie should be a place of discovery.
There are very, very few directors stylistically that you can tell apart, and Guy is one of them. Not only is he a household name as a director, but his style is uniquely his. So what does a Guy Ritchie war film look like? That's so exciting. We've never seen that before. And Jake brought that up to me, and I was like, we were talking about it, and we were also talking about how that can affect one's performance. Is like, you know when you're watching a Guy Ritchie movie. So what does that look like in this tone? But in addition to that, the attention to detail has been immense. I mean, all the guys are always here making sure that we are as authentic as possible, and that, you know, I think everybody takes this seriously. The movie's about, you have to, there's no other way to do a film like this without doing the best you can. And obviously things can slip through the cracks. It's a film at the end of the day, but I think the military will be really proud to see Guy's take on a film like this.
As a military consultant, you kind of get involved in all aspects of that movie. You're talking to every department to bring that authenticity. And that's our whole job, is to really just bring as much authenticity to the project as we can without kind of stepping onto that creative vision, you know, of the project leadership, in this case, Guy Ritchie and Max Keenan, those guys. There's a balance there. I tell them what right looks like or sounds like or whatever, and then they tell me, great, we'll take this, and they cherry pick what they want, and then, you know, that's it, we move on.
There are a lot of things that can go wrong when you put on a uniform that maybe you don't know have gone wrong. The location of your unit patch, the orientation of the American flag, the orientation of your rank. It has to look natural. And so one of the first things we do, and one of the first things I did first thing in the morning, was take a quick look at Jake Gyllenhaal, take a quick look at the other guys as Special Forces soldiers, look at all the supplemental actors just being background, and making sure that they looked like they could have served in the Army.
I've spent a lot of time with learning about the military. I've spent years, I've made a number of movies about military, people who have spent time in the military. I have a number of friends that I've gathered through that process, and then also before I even began that process, who were in the military in all different forms. In terms of John specifically, I think what I liked about this in terms of preparation was there, instead of that normal preparation that I have done many times, kind of grinding and digging deep and being sort of obsessive about it, I trusted in the history of everything that I've learned, of the people that I know, of the relationships I have, and asking them the questions that I needed. And then I think it was beyond the uniform, is what I like to think about it. It's sort of beyond the uniform into a sense of the human. And I keep saying human because I think it's a really important thing to point out, that this story is outside of anything that any country, any affiliation. It's outside of all of that. It's what do we do when someone saves our life?
Jake Gyllenhaal is one of those national treasures. For me, he's one of my top 5 actors I've gotten to work with and watch him. Like, even when I'm not needed on set, I'm there, I'm watching them, just seeing how they do certain things, because he's a fantastic actor. And I haven't told him to his face, so if you watch this, Jake, don't get happy. So I think he's I think he's one of the greats. From my generation, I remember being at drama school and watching him on screen and going, that's a great actor. And I learned from them. Like today, walking on set, I'm watching them just, even though they're doing nothing, they're listening to each other. I'm just observing that. So it's been great watching him do that. Also, you know, how he delivers lines. He's also finding a new process on how we deliver lines in the moment as well, in the sense where a guy's feeding him lines and we're changing scripts. So I'm just seeing how he manages that and how he works, and just watching him do different things. Did that work? Did that not? Did that give him energy? And he's always analyzing that. And I'm just sitting there watching and observing. But it's been a great experience working with, you know, one of the actors who I really admire.
The first conversation that Jake and I had was about what is his role? How did he get there? How did John Kinley become Master Sergeant John Kinley? Well, you're talking 15, 16, 18 years of hard Army training. You're talking, especially at this point in the war, multiple deployments, time away from your family. At times, your fellow Special Forces soldiers are closer to you than your own family. And so his role as a team sergeant, he's a Master Sergeant, is to be ultimately in a full Special Forces team, the second in command. But he is the guy who is the constant there. The officers trade out every 2 or 3 years. The Master Sergeant stays there. He has likely grown up in this unit. So John Kinley, if you want to develop a fictional background, has been 3-3 Bravo 1 for 8 or 10 years.
Jake just came to collaborate, and we had what I'd say is a perfect sort of creative collaboration, which was, again, we'd go through the process of rewriting everything on the day, and Jake is a professional. You need to work with non-professionals to appreciate professionals. Acting is incredibly hard. It just is, and it's a skill, and it needs to be crafted and developed. I have an enormous respect for actors.
What I love about Guy is that each scene has a stamp of Ritchie on it, you know? That, you know, you head into a scene that you think might be kind of obvious take, and he always edges in with humor, he always edges in with a sort of obtuse angle on the normal sort of interaction. And so you just never know what you're gonna get. And there's always a great laugh, you know? Like, I mean, he and I just immediately, from the first day and even before, but particularly the first day of shooting, got along, and I really love him. I really love working with him. I love that some scenes you do them, you move through them fast and he's done with it. And then other scenes as an actor, he'll come in and he will focus with you and he will move in very small steps, give you a direction and give you the opportunity and space to explore. To me, I'm an actor that loves space to explore. And when I have a leader who says, again, show me something new. Again, show me something different. How about this idea? How about that idea? I eat it up and I adore it. And so that's what this process has been with Guy.
I think as an actor working with Guy, you have, it shouldn't be your first dance, you know, because you have to be comfortable in what you're doing and you have to be confident in what you're doing and you have to be able to adjust, you know, adapt and adjust, because that's the way he works. I don't think I've said one line as written in the script. Everything changes on the day, you know, and when I say on the day, it's not a couple of hours, it's like on the day, a camera rolling and say this instead, or say this, and it's a living organism, the film.
What I get out of this film is I'm actually inspired by the journey, and what one person's prepared to do for another. And you want to focus on that rather than the alternative, don't you? You want to focus on authentic generosity. And we had to go for some lengths not to make this saccharine. And that's, I had to work very hard against that. It's almost like they don't like each other. And even after the journey, they still don't really like each other. And that's not, and honestly, whether you like someone or not is not important. It's how much you respect someone that's important.
What I would say that this film really does, though, is humanize people and characters, and that is the perspective that I love to see. Empathy is what we all need. I think it's pretty obvious at this point, is taking a step back and at the very least trying to understand what it's like to be in somebody else's situation.
When you are, in this case, an Afghan local, and you sacrifice your safety, sacrifice the safety of your family, your name, and identity and all of that to join, in this case, the Americans and help fight the Taliban, who also lived there with you, that has to be commended somehow. And it's not like writing him an award like you were like a soldier, like and John got his Distinguished Service Cross. Like there's no award to give Dar, you know? So the only way we can really repay these guys, especially when they are, when they hold that integrity and they are with us right there, and they like they don't lie to us or kind of double cross us. When we vet them and we know that these guys are good guys and they're right there with us, they're risking their lives, we have to find a way to reward them for that. The best way we can reward them for that is to get them and their family out of this war-torn country and somewhere safe, even if it's not the U.S., you know? Not all interpreters came to the U.S. Some of them went to Europe and other places where they had family, and we helped them get there. And I think that's the best thing we could have done for them.
I think the movie is an action, adventure, thrilling film. I think like any great genre movie that is action and adventure, I think at the heart of it is a real relationship. At the heart of it is something moving. And I think even though you will be thrilled while watching it, I think hopefully in the end, you will be moved. And may it, like so many of the wonderful movies I've seen that have moved me, have you walk out saying, I'm gonna think about those other things in my life that maybe people I could help or something I could do, and also be entertained. You seem like you're the only one who can get anything done around here.
What's the problem?
We keep going out and achieving nothing, and I keep putting my men in constant danger. It just feels like we're moving sand around the sandbox.
What's your next move?
Well, second location, 120 clicks away.